Hi, everyone. Right, so yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I usually live in United Kingdom for the past couple of years, well, last 7 years, and bear with me. There we go. A little bit about me and why I am here today is not only I am a inclusion and diversity and mental health advocate, as it says on here, I am also professionally focusing at the moment on capability, communications, culture, and inclusion and diversity management in a quite large UK bank. And previously, I have worked in the business environment and in tech environment as well, working in business development, partner relations, account management, and so on. So yeah, through my podcast as well, I am speaking about becoming more empathetic towards each other, trying to really understand what inclusion means and learning more about other people. But in terms of inclusion and diversity, there are quite a few different letter combinations that you might have come across, and these are some of them, some of the most popular ones. But what I would like to talk about today is not which combination is the right one, because you can pick whichever feels right for you. It's more about what actually they mean. So let me give a try and... Right. So there are 4 key components in E, I, and D. So E stands for a few different things, but the kind of main one that we tend to think about is equality. And what equality means is that we have equal human rights, we have equal voting rights, we have equal opportunities for jobs, so we all get those 9-to-5 options, we all can get an opportunity to work. But if I would give you an example of a shoe, what equality means that every single person gets a pair of shoes. What is really interesting is the equity focuses actually on the fact that each of us should get a pair of shoes that actually fit us. And that's the biggest difference. You might get everyone something, but whether that will fit and whether that best professional, for example, in your company will be able to fill the shoes that you are giving them, that is a really good question. So that's why E usually stands for equity over equality. And then you have the next level, you have diversity. And what diversity means is that everyone gets a pair of shoes that fit, that actually are the pair of shoes you would like to wear, that you feel most comfortable in. So that's where the diversity comes in. But what actually is the next level is, this is really sensitive, is inclusion. And what inclusion means is that everyone, with no matter what shoes they're wearing, is getting a seat at the table, and everyone is having a chance to actually have a say and have some input into what is being decided. Wow. So why do I use inclusion and diversity? Because my job role as well in my corporate world is inclusion and diversity manager. And we would like to focus on inclusion, on hearing everyone's voice first, and diversity, having those different opinions second. And I would like to give you a few examples what happens when you don't have these diverse opinions and you don't include them at the table. So this one is really sensitive, so I'll give it a try. There we go. One of the really good examples are the self-driving vehicles, so your electric cars that drive on their own. And what has been discovered not too long ago is that actually some of these cars are not recognizing pedestrians in the same way. So if someone has a darker skin, this car is more likely to hit that pedestrian. And that comes from the part where it hasn't really been looked at properly from diverse enough kind of perspective. Here's another example. Popular smartwatches, most of us have one, have accidentally created technology that can be a little bit racist. And what that actually means is that some of the watches have failed to work on darker skins. The very first Apple Watch that was released had a bit scandalous situation. So what happened with them actually was that their heart rate monitor did not pick up tattooed or dark skin, and they needed to fix that problem quite quickly. And they haven't been the only ones in the industry that have faced these kind of challenges. So here's another example of how technology can become biased as well. And Here's a bit of data as well. So if you look up here, this is the difference between darker females and lighter females. How are they getting recognized compared to their lighter male counterparts? So interestingly, the lighter males, there's no problem identifying their faces when it comes to women, and especially when it comes to darker women. There's a bit different experience. And that's what I would like to bring your attention to, because when we look at the data, even the grands like Microsoft, IBM, Google, they all face these challenges. And where these challenges come from is that the people who are making these automated decision systems, they were bringing their human biases into the technology and creating actually algorithmical biases. So it's very, very interesting when you look at it. So what is bias? Bias actually means that based on our unconscious attitudes regarding ethnicity, age, race, we can make unconscious decisions and attitudes towards people. We do tend to gravitate towards someone who looks like us, who talks like us, who speaks like us, has a similar name, similar accent, because we feel comfortable in that kind of environment. That's where we've grown up. But actually, we want to have that thought diversity. We want to have different people in the room to make the right decisions for our customers. And that's what I'm looking at today. So what data is telling us for the company? So most of you will be either working for someone or having your own business. So this is where it's really important to have a look at it. So what the data is telling us, inclusive companies are 1.7 times more likely to actually be innovation leaders. I love this one. Sales revenue increases 15-fold amongst companies with racial diversity, 15 times. And then you look at inclusive teams, turns out they make better decisions 2 times quicker. If you look at diverse companies, they are 70% more likely to capture new markets. And I think in a small market like in the Baltics, it is really important to capture a bit bigger scale, not just our own countries. So even more it becomes important to think about if we are mirroring our customers. This is really not on my side today. And yeah, so this is the question that I would like you all to think about. Is your business mirroring your local and global customers? Are you actually, when you're having a decision made, thinking about everyone you are wanting to service? Or are you just having you and your few closest partners that you know are really good ones, that you work really well together to make these decisions because you think you have all the information and all the data you need? And that is something that I learned quite a lot when I moved from Latvia and started working in the UK about 7 years ago. I realized that what I know and what my understanding is so limited when I come to a new country. And when I start to speak with people around there and how they function, what their priorities are, what their lives are, what their stories are. And that was the part that drew me to inclusion and diversity and trying to understand a bit more how we can make better decisions together. Again, wish me luck. There we go. So I didn't want to leave you with just here's all the data and here's all the things that might go wrong. I actually want to give you a few simple things that you can bring to your workplaces and to your conversations, how to make a better environment. So first of all, I would say educate yourselves and your teams. There's so many wonderful online resources out there. There's podcasts to listen. There's so many YouTube videos. You can get LinkedIn Learning for a fairly small amount of money, and you can start learning there. You can invite someone to talk to you and your colleagues. You can do so many things, read books and write and then discuss them amongst yourselves. There's really very many options out there that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. But then you also need to be open to this information that comes to you. You need to be open to your people, and you need to bring them all around the table and have that conversation really openly and honestly. Grow a bit of empathy, and when you have that trust and psychological safety in your teams, and I have worked and still work for that kind of teams, the decisions do get made quicker, and the product that we create and the services that we create are a lot better than if one person would have just gone in the room and made that decision. The next one is what I already mentioned, really understanding your target market. Who do you work for? Who your customers are? Where are you trying to branch out? And then think if you have all of those voices around the table with you. And I don't say like that you have to hire heaps and heaps of people to have every sexual orientation, gender, age, ethnicity presented. But you can have those people as your advisors. You can have focus groups from your customers. You can invite someone with a background that you don't have who can give you advice. And it doesn't need to be someone who is permanently all the time in your team. So you can be quite creative with it. And then when you're building your strategy, consider inclusion and diversity in it as well. When you're looking, for example, at systems thinking, you're looking at the scope of everything that you do in your business and every little keg that's working in your business. Think about inclusion and diversity. When I'm making this change, am I really thinking about every single colleague that works in my team, and am I impacting maybe potentially any of them? Am I thinking about all of my customers, and am I thinking about what could they need rather than what do I think is a really good idea to have? If you're designing a new product and using design thinking, you have the double diamond approach. Is your focus group, who is testing your prototype, is it diverse enough? Have you involved everyone in your company that needs to be involved? Have you involved some customers potentially that will be using that product or service that you're creating? So have a bit of a thought, where else could I invite someone else that can give me an additional perspective where my biases maybe could be working against me? Because we all have biases. It's not like it's something that only some people have and it's because they're closed-minded. No, we all have. We all have people that we bond to better, and we all have people that we want to be friends and people that we find hard to communicate with. But that's the trick. There is some bias clicking at that point in time, and it's interesting to explore where it comes from and what actually we could learn from it. So please don't be afraid to admit that you might have that bias, because we all do. And then if you are in a big enough company, focusing on inclusive hiring can be a really good way to do it as well, because you can look, is your job advert approachable enough? Because I don't know if you know this data, but women are a lot less likely to apply for a job where the description doesn't fit exactly what their experience is. I can't remember the exact data from the top of my head now, but it was 90% or a bit over. So women will aim to almost 100% to go and apply for a job, while men would actually look at, I can do about 60% of this, so I'll give it a chance, I'll go ahead and apply. So are you, with your job adverts, being kind of, I don't want to say general enough, but are you putting in the key things that you cannot go without and leaving a space for a bit of adjustment so that someone else can apply that maybe wouldn't have applied if you would send that really detailed job advert out? And equally, where do you advertise? Do you advertise just through the few most popular portals? Are you working with networks? Same as even like, are you advertising through Riga Tech Girls? Are you giving them a heads up that you actually have a job role coming up? Things like that. Are you building your networks and contacts where you can find more people that you might find helpful for your future company growth? And there's a really interesting thing that recently has started to be talked about a lot more. Are we looking for a culture fit, or are we looking for a culture add? And the main difference is that the culture fit quite often will find someone that really fits our team, that is exactly like us, and someone like who thinks and works and communicates in the same way as us. And of course, it's great to have people that are exactly like us, because it's so easy to work with them. But that's again that bit that can create that bias, and that can impact the way how your decisions are being made. And actually, when you look at the culture add bit, once you start to get to know people, we all have more in common than we have not. So yeah, that's a really brilliant way to go as well. And the last thing that I wanted to touch upon is in bigger companies, if you don't have them yet, you can create colleague networks. You can encourage as leadership to allow your colleagues from maybe marginalized groups to create different kind of networks. And for example, the company that I work in, we have a group for LGBTQ+ colleagues, we have a group for people with disabilities, we have a group for Black, Asian, and minority ethnic colleagues, we have a group for women, for families. There's so many different kind of ones. Even there's a group for people who have lost a baby, miscarriages, things like that. The people actually want to bond on these things, and all of these experiences that they're going through in their lives might impact the way they perform, but actually as a company we can support these people for them to feel included, and we can be more inclusive. So these are a few things. So I will pause here because the next bit is a panel discussion about what we could actually do in tech companies and how we could improve inclusion and diversity targets. So I will pause here and tell thank you. And in case you would like to hear more about what I do and what I'm about, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can listen to my podcast, Conversations with My Mind. And yeah, please let me know how you like it if you do. Thank you so much.